Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, and boy, do we have a great segment coming up for you all today. Best-selling author Iris Bolling is back with us today. If you guys do not know Iris, we're now connected just on social media before we bring in our Amazon Live family. So I definitely want you guys to take a moment, make sure you guys are following her on all social media. If you guys are on Twitter, you'll notice her Twitter handle is actually tagged with this broadcast. If you're on Facebook, we're about to tag her now before we bring in Amazon. She's celebrating a brand new book, not this one, but this book's important too. But this book is this one, The Society of Intellectual Beings, or SIBS, as we'll be calling it here. We're going to talk to Iris about the brand new book, her second release this year. Iris, I appreciate you being on with us. I'm going to have you hold just 1 second. I'm going to go ahead just to make sure we have you connected on Facebook here, and we'll go ahead
Okay.
and get started, okay?
Okay.
All right. And there's the page there. Gonna make sure we're all set. And we definitely invite you guys too while I'm doing this. Make sure you guys are also tagging if there's anyone you know that is a reader that would love a great suspense and even a little something
Mm.
extra. I think you guys could probably enjoy this book as well. It's a great way to be able to, when you kind of look at the craziness we've been going through in the world, it adds to that craziness a little bit, but in a fun way. so,
It
so I,
does.
I, I, I think you guys will enjoy that. Well, we're all set there on Facebook. Gonna go ahead and bring in our Amazon Live family.
Great.
And there is Amazon. And go ahead and give them the okay. And welcome back, Amazon Live family, to Cyrus Ware Presents. Excited you all could be with us as I'm back with my friend, best-selling author Iris Bolling. She's celebrating a brand new book. It's this one here, SIBS, The Society of Intellectual Beings, officially out today. And she's celebrating her pub day with us here on Amazon Live, as well as through our other streaming sites as well. Iris, thank you so much for the time and the honor. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's always fun chatting with you.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and highlight the new book and Brown Book Series. Appreciate you following us over there on Amazon Live. Appreciate that. If you guys have any questions, no matter what platform you guys are joining us on, we have all of them connected into our main site here. So whether you're on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, Amazon Live, we can get your questions in here. So definitely make sure you guys put those in. I'm going to go ahead and highlight the new book. So I want to talk about this, Iris, because you and
Okay.
I, this is kind of deja vu for us in a couple of ways. One, we just talked yesterday
We did.
about this book. But also, this is your second time on Amazon Live this year with a new
Yeah.
release. You know, you came out with
Yes.
Aftermath, and now you've given us Sibs. How does it feel now to have two books released this year and to see the response already?
It is actually wonderful. And the great thing about it is the stories are kind of connected, which would make it easier to follow. And then you can get them all in one place. You know,
Yeah,
they're right there. You can actually get them all at one place just with one click. Or if you want to get the paperback copy, which came out earlier,
yeah.
you can get that. You can get that as well.
Oh boy, that is so true. It did.
It did.
but
It did.
so,
And
Iris,
and
I,
and
I'm
that's
sorry. Go ahead.
okay. It's okay because it actually gave me reviews before the book
Mm,
actually
yeah.
was released. So it was wonderful. I take it all.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that because your fans definitely love to share, and I want to give them credit for a second.
I yes.
Um, your
Yes.
your fans are so loyal to you, but also
Mhm.
loyal to these characters as well. Talk to us about that, Iris, because you've been doing this for a while. How does that feel from book to book to book? Have that support system right there with you.
It's a blessing because the one thing I would say about readers is once they grab onto you and you give them good stories and you continue to give you good stories, they're going to be right there with you all the way. And as you know, I've changed a couple of genres
Hmm.
this year, and I've been so blessed because they came along with me, Cyrus. And
Yeah.
they didn't have to do that. And some of them I know are really into their romance and things like that. But when I came out there and I tried my hand at the and I did the detective story, They came right along with me, and now I'm touching a little bit into sci-fi, a little
Hmm.
bit, and they came right along with me, and they love the characters.
Yeah,
And I think that's key. I think they follow the characters.
yeah. I think,
Um,
no,
and they follow the characters as much as they follow me.
yeah, and I think that's the thing that gets so invested in them. I want to say hello to Antoinette Gates. I see you over there on Facebook. She says hello, Cyrus and Iris. And that is such a good point. Now I have this book up for a reason. This book did not come out this year, y'all. She had two come out, but this wasn't one of them. But we had such an interesting conversation yesterday about the two books that did come out this year, Iris, and that
Yes.
being Aftermath, of course, with Nate Raines, and now, of course, SIBS, the Society of Intellectual Beings. And there's a connection to this book, News with Curves. Talk to us about that.
Okay. And I know people are not going to understand this, but News with Curves was kind of like a bridge book for me. And the reason that I call it a bridge book is because I write mostly romance and romantic suspense.
Mm-hmm.
This one was taking it, I knew where this book was going to go, and it was taking us into a different genre. So I called it my bridge book. But from this bridge book, we actually went into two series so far. There's a third one that's coming, but two series from this book. So the characters in this book that you were introduced to in this book, they have a connection in News with Curves, and it has trailed off into their own series. So the first book to come out of News with Curves was actually The Aftermath, a Nate
Mm-hmm.
Raines novel, which is my detective series. And the story, the case that was involved in there actually originated in News with Curves. At the end of News with Curves, this person is murdered. And that's the case that begins the Nate Raines series. But also in News with Curves, you was introduced to this family called the Tyson brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And the Tyson's brothers is their story, and the way that that family came to be is a blended family, but in a different way. But the way that they came to be family, the way that they bonded as family has is connected to SIBS, the Society of Intellectual Beings. So that one book, News with Curves, has generated two series, two different series, and a third is coming.
Wow, wow.
A third is
So
coming.
you called it your bridge book, and I'm going to say I have it highlighted right now for those joining us on Amazon Live side. At the time we're having this conversation right now, Iris, this book has 119 reviews on it. 119 reviews on News with Kirk. When you saw the response to it, did that reinforce for you, even though the audience may not have known what was coming? Did it reinforce for you that they really got from the book what you wanted them to get?
It did, because even though they it was new to them, they grabbed onto the characters.
Mm-hmm.
They loved the characters. Some of them had the nerve to threaten me, Cyrus, because because at the end of the book, one of the characters that they seem to have fallen in love with, that character ends up murdered, and
Mm.
they were not happy. They were not
Yeah.
happy, and they have been trying to convince me since I wrote that book. They have been trying to convince me, can we let him just be almost dead, not quite dead, but almost dead or something like that. But once they got Nate's book, The Aftermath, they understood how that death impacted Nate Raines. So they
Got
they understood it. They still didn't like it. They
it.
still
Yeah.
wanted me to bring Alex back to life, but they did accept it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the
Yeah,
soap operas do it all the time, Iris. I mean, they bring people back.
I know they do.
Hey, Iris,
I
they
know
said this
they
has been a
do.
dream. It was just a dream.
It was just a dream. It didn't really happen. Yes. No, this one, Alex had to die.
Yeah. Hello to you, Melissa. Thank you so much for joining us on the Facebook side. Midnight Ace Book Bar. Thank you so much for, for being over here. Antoinette asked the question on Facebook: what can we expect from the Tyson brothers? Will Rachel be investing? Oh,
Oh,
Well, I
interesting.
don't know if you can. Well, whatever you'd like to share, and then we'll dive more into Sibs. Whatever you'd like to share there, Iris.
Now, I'm not going to go too far into it because you're actually going into the next book of the Civ
Mm,
series,
okay. Okay.
and you are going to see more of the Tyson brothers because there's going to be at least we know it's going to be one more book. There may be two more
Okay.
from the Tyson brothers because once you read Civs, you will understand there's more happening, and you know even at the end of Civs, once you get to the end of Civs you know that, oh, okay, we really have to have another book because we need to know what happens with this person and what happens with this person. So, to answer Antoinette question without answering, you are going to hear from them again. You are going to hear from the Tyson brothers again. And yes, I like her play on words because I have a book titled Invested
Yeah.
as well, and I like the way that she played on those words. We want to know if Rachel was going to be invested, and yes, Rachel is 100% invested.
Mm. So let's dive into Sibs a little bit. This is the newest release, and I
Okay.
want to say and appreciate everyone. Please keep the questions coming. Kay, hello to you on the Facebook side. Appreciate you being with us as well. Welcome those who are joining us over here on Amazon Live. I see you guys as well as on Twitter as well. Thank you all for the like of the post. Feel free to retweet that too out, guys, and it will be available on all these platforms for a replay as well. So if you guys came in a little bit late and you missed the part of it, I'm here with best-selling author Iris Bolling. You really don't need to know. You already know who she is. I'm Cyrus Webb, though. If you guys don't know who I am. And we're talking about her new book, Sibs, The Society of Intellectual Beings, that's out now. I'm going to go ahead and go back to it here on Amazon and highlight it. So I want to talk about this because you always surprise me, Iris, in the way you say things about yourself and your books, and it kind of reminds me of what people say to me because I remember we had this conversation on Amazon Live when you said, I didn't know people were going to like Nate Rain because it's a different type of writing for me.
Right.
And I was like, what are you talking about? You've given us suspense before you've given us. And in reading this, this
That's
was what
true.
I would expect from an Iris Bowling book. So I wanted to ask you, because I normally ask, how do readers normally put an author in a box? Do you feel as though when you came into the literary genre or game that you kind of were put in a certain position?
I think so. But what I've learned is that I put myself in the box.
Hmm.
My readers didn't do that.
Got you.
I put myself in that box because I was thinking, okay, I'm writing romance. Let me stick with romance. Let me give the readers what I think the readers wanted to have.
Yeah.
What I've come to learn is if I'm giving them a good story, the readers want it.
Mm.
Sometimes they don't care if it's romance, romantic suspense, or a mystery or a thriller, or in this case, a sci-fi.
Yeah.
They want a good story from Iris Bolling. They want
Right.
an Iris Bolling book.
Mm.
And it took me releasing Rain, and I was nervous. You and I discussed this. I was
Mm-hmm.
really nervous about doing it because it was coming outside of what was my comfort zone.
Got you.
But what it seemed to have done is it opened up a different world for me now.
Mm.
And now what I realize is that if you give readers good characters, you give them a good storyline, you give them some entertainment while they're reading that story or an escape from whatever is going on in their life, then you are satisfying the reader's need.
Yeah.
You're satisfying the reader's need. And it took me releasing reins and stepping outside of my comfort zone in
Got you.
order to learn that lesson. But they taught me a lesson. One person told me yesterday. They said, don't say it's this genre or this genre or
Mm.
whatever. We just want to know it's an Iris Bowling book.
Yeah.
And if it's an Iris Bowling book, we're going to get it because we know we're going to get a good story. And that was a huge compliment
Yeah.
for me. For me.
Yeah. And I've always felt that way. I mean, in fact, Shay says there on Facebook, we love everything that Iris writes. And another comment, I think I saw it there. Yep. Midnight Ace Book Bar says, spite of what readers say, we enjoy taking the various adventures. I believe it's Iris' ability to give us a good book each release. And I totally agree with that. And SIB, the Society of Intellectual Beings, everyone, is another example of that. One of the main characters is a character named Wade. I want to talk to you about Wade. We had a conversation
Mm,
about him in another conversation, Iris.
right.
But I think this book, what it does, the reason why to me it's so real, even though we're never taking an adventure into your mind, you know,
Hmm.
it's we are reading it. But Wade, even though I'm sure people will say he's the good guy, I think you really play well on that being in the eye of the beholder. Would you agree with this book that there are people who we may not think they're good, but they feel like because of their intent and motives that they're doing good things.
Right. And for Wade, he to be honest with you, Ray rather be in his newsroom doing his day in and day out thing. But when this thing happens
Hmm.
in his life, it's hard to ignore it. Not only that, and we spoke on this yesterday. Rachel is not going
Hmm.
to allow him to ignore it because she knows that he needs to take this step in order to go to the next level or go to the next step purpose in his life.
Right.
And she because she loves him, she's not going to allow him to just step over it and ignore it. However, like you said, people will have different perspectives
Hmm.
on Wade and the other person, Bradford the third.
Hmm.
You know, people may have different perspectives on who is good and who is not good. And but this book does come down to good versus evil.
Yeah.
And remember, we mentioned something about evil and being sinister.
Hmm.
That's a difference.
Hmm.
So when you read this, it's the reader's perspective. But every story should be like that. Every story should be what that reader is getting out of it. And with Wade, for me, Wade is a guy who is just discovering his true purpose
Hmm.
in life right now. And it may not be something he wants to deal with,
Right.
but boom, here it is. He
Yeah.
has to deal with it now.
And I think Iris, from me as a reader, because you and I had not discussed the book before our conversation started this week, gearing up for the release. I think Wade reminds me of myself in a sense that when it becomes personal, and for Wade it became personal when we were dealing with a family tragedy or something happened to someone we love. It becomes, even though it may not be us directly, we take that on, right?
Right,
Almost as a cause. It becomes a
right.
mission. I think that what you show on both sides, if you're talking good and evil, that we can look for people if they agree with us to join us. And we see that in the world in the world today,
We do.
that people will join on to what fits them, what fits, their mindset or their way of thinking. How much did that play in the writing of this book?
You know, for me, my stories are character driven.
Hmm.
So it's really wherever that particular character takes me.
Gotcha.
And when it comes to the mindset, you have to put yourself in the mindset. What if I'm Wade? How would
Hmm.
I react to what is happening here? And then I have to put myself in the mind of Bradford the third and Bradford Jr.
Hmm.
And say, okay, if I'm Bradford the third, when I discover what he discovers, what's the mindset that I would be in, if that was to happen to me. So when I'm writing the stories, I have to be in the mindset of those characters, not an Iris mindset. It has to be in the mindset of those characters. And here's the other thing. When you try to do something with a character that is not a part of that character's personality or mindset, the story it won't work, and you would know it, and you would know it because it's stepping out of that character's personality or persona.
Gotcha.
So you would know it if it's something different. So the mindset really has to be in that of the character and not so much um Iris. But in every story that I write, I will say this: regardless of the character's mindset, it's usually what's happening in the world that impacts our thinking.
Hmm.
So whatever is happening in the world around us also impacts those characters that we're writing about. And that's why it seems like this book is right in today.
Right,
It's right in what's happening today.
right. And we want to talk. We had a great conversation. If you guys missed it about the cover, we had a great conversation about that on Cyrus
Oh,
Represents on another platform. We'll make sure that we link that up for you guys. I want to say hello to Miss K over on Amazon Live. I appreciate the follow over there. If you guys are on Amazon Live, if you haven't done so already, you'll notice below there is a follow button there. If you follow us, we are broadcasting here on Amazon Live 7 days a week. That way you can stay connected with all of our broadcasts. We have conversations like this. I also have a segment I do with Amazon Live at home at Cyrus Webb. We are actually in my home here with Furnished by Amazon, helping you guys with home products as well. And we also have our show, The Book Guy, that's also on this platform on Mondays, every Monday. So you guys can stay connected with all of our programming just by clicking the follow button there. Also below, you'll notice we have the carousel full of books by Iris Bolling. So Iris, I want to stop for a second. There are very few authors. I think I've done almost 200 episodes of this show outside of
congratulations.
Conversations Live, but there that have had as many books in the carousel. The author, I don't. I'm about to give you an exclusive, Iris. I'm interviewing the V.C. Andrews ghostwriter in a couple weeks,
Oh,
and
wow.
so all of his would not fit in
Addicts
the
in the
carousel.
closet. Oh, I addicts. I remember her book so far. I'm sorry, I interrupt you, but I used to
Yeah,
love Lucy Andrews.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. He's releasing her autobiography, her biography
Oh,
this month as
wow.
well. But Andrew Niderman, but all of his wouldn't fit. But I want to talk about that for a second with you. I mean, what has this experience been like for you to even look at your body of work on a platform like
Mm.
Amazon, the books you've been able to write, Iris?
I look at it, and to me, it's a blessing that I've been able to write that many stories, and the stories vary. They really do vary. But I look at those before me. I look at Brenda Jackson. I look at Beverly Jenkins. I look at Deborah Mello. I look at Gwen Bolton. I look at their body of work, and I
Mm-hmm.
say I got a long way to go. I have a long way to go. So
Yeah,
I look at mine and I celebrate each one of them
yeah,
because it is a blessing that they're there, and every one of them are still selling. Even
yeah,
my very first book, the same thing. They're still very much alive
yeah.
out there. So that is also a blessing. But like I said, I look at those greats before me, and I say I have a long way to go. A long way to go. I think Brenda Jackson is like at 150
Oh
um,
wow,
books out there. I think Beverly is like around 40 or 50 books, and they're
wow,
still going strong.
right.
They're still going strong, and so I have a little ways to go.
Yeah,
That's
I
what
get
I
it.
think when I look at it. Thankful, very blessed with the stories I have been able to put out there. But I'm looking forward to what's coming in 2022, and what's coming in 2023, and what other stories I can put out there to entertain the readers.
Yeah, I love that. I want to say shout out to Earl Hall over there on the Facebook side. Earl, appreciate you joining us, and thank you about the desk. Yeah, this is our new setup over here, so I appreciate that. So you said two things, and then I want to go to Bradford the third because we haven't talked about him in this conversation here on Amazon Live. Shout out to
Okay.
Bookworm75 on Amazon Live for following us over there. Appreciate that. Um, the thing that is also interesting to me about you, Iris, and I've gotten to know you now for a while. We've had an opportunity to have these conversations. Now we're being able to actually see each other, which is
Right?
definitely great. I want to talk to us and to our audience out there about permission because you were talking about the stories and what you were looking forward to in the years to come. How important was that permission to yourself to tell the stories that you wanted to be able to tell?
Oh, Cyrus, why you want to dig deep? Um, I would, I'm an independent author.
Yeah.
I have not been traditionally published. All of my books have been self-published
Mm-hmm.
um, books, and that allows me, it allows me to the freedom to write stories that I want to write about, the content that I want to write about, in the way that I want to write about them. I'm fortunate enough to be able to write my stories in a way that readers enjoy them, and that freedom um, to write those stories my way, I think is what they enjoy. Um, I I am not against traditionally being published um, or anything of that nature, but it seems that when you are independently published, I have that freedom to write the
Yeah.
stories that I want to write, to
Mhm.
write them the way that I want to write them. I'm not always so great at making sure that um, if you're doing a romance, make sure that the story is concentrating on that one romance, because to me life isn't like that.
Right.
Is this is happening and this is happening and this is happening and it's all happening at the same time.
Yeah.
So for me it gives me the permission. I gave myself the permission to write what I want to write about the topics that I want to write about. And I do a lot with political backdrops,
Hmm.
because there's a lot going on in this world I think we should be aware of. And the way that I write my stories, I'm aware, I'm able to make people aware of things that's happening in the world in a more entertaining way, in a softer way. Let's put
Yeah.
it that, in a softer way. But hopefully, I'm giving them something that they can pick up on and say, I never thought about that. Let me think about looking into these smaller local races and what's happening with my school board or different things like that when I write about my political dramas. Or when I'm writing about the banking industry, I never thought about investing in that way. But I can tell my stories my way and prayerfully, get the reader interested in whatever that content is that I'm putting inside my story.
Mm. Love that. Well, since you opened the door to talking about things going on in the world and political, I guess we
Uh,
will reference this cover because, as we talked about in another conversation, for
we
those who haven't
did, we
seen
did.
it, there will be some who will look at this cover and will have a certain idea of what this book might be about. But I will say about the Society of Intellectual Beings, I think that the real relevant themes, and you can correct me on this, Iris, it really boils down to the haves and the have-nots,
It
and
really
who
does.
chooses to have, and who chooses the even as the term you use in the book, the discarded, which we can aptly apply to how some people see people today. Talk to us about that because I think that is a big part of the story.
It is a huge part of the story, and the thing about it, the way that it relates to what's happening in the world right now is right now we really are getting dangerously close to that position that there are the elites. I'm putting quotes around that word, the
Yeah.
elites that get to determine who is worthy and
Mm.
who is not worthy of being in their world or their idea of what the world should be. And
Right.
in Sibs is exactly what's happening with this experiment that's going on. They're deciding who is worthy and who is not worthy, what qualities in a child is worthy of holding on to and keeping them, and what quality is not important and we don't want to have anything to do with that particular quality. um it is unfortunately, it's unfortunate that we're not in a world where everyone is accepted for who they are and where they are in life.
Yeah.
And this story touches on that. It touches on it in a different way, but that is exactly what it is touching on. You said it yourself, the haves and the haves not, those who
Yeah.
are accepted and those who are discarded.
Right.
And that's the core basis of this book. And who gets to decide that? That's
Yeah.
the other part. Who
Right.
gets to actually decide that? And
Hmm.
that's it.
And that leads us to the war of words between Wade and Bradford III, which both of us referenced Bradford III. We can't have this conversation without diving into him because there are parts of him, honestly, Iris, I'm going to go ahead and admit it. I can relate to in ways because I think there is a sense of loyalty at one point with him. I think we see him go through an evolution as
Yes.
a character,
Yes.
but I think there is a sense of loyalty, but also a sense of entitlement. that also comes in. Talk to us about what it was like for you to create those layers of Bradford III, who many people will see as the nemesis of not only Wade but also other, the good guys, quote unquote.
Bradford was brought into a situation not of his making. But when he was brought into that situation, it was ingrained in him that this is the way that the world should be. This is the way we want the world to be. This is the way we're going to make the world, for ourselves, not just for us. We want everyone to live by these standards or these things that we want, that we decide is valued.
Yeah.
And Bradford kind of goes through an evolution because he's really bought into what his father is teaching him and the way that his father is raising him and what people should be like. He's really bought into it, but then he's also a victim of it because he's not one of them. And so he is constantly being reminded, you're not a Sib, which makes you less. So the very thing that they were doing to the other children, his father in a way was doing to him. And so that took him through, like you said, an evolution. And as he grew older, things began to change a little bit for him. And it did become a point where he now feels he's entitled to have the life the way that he perceives life should be. And unfortunately, his evolution kind of represents what some of the people, I think, I didn't live that life, so I can't say that, but some of the things that some people are feeling entitled to have certain things in life. And his evolution kind of reminds me of that, or puts me in mind of some of the things that we see happening to those who feel they are entitled right now.
Do you find, I wasn't going to ask you this question, but I think I will ask you because I'm
Okay.
curious now of the answer. Between Wade, I think the reason, and again, I'm talking as the reader, you and I have
Hmm.
not discussed this at all outside of
Right.
this conversation. I think the reason why Wade and Bradford III are such a great yin and yang is because in some ways they're similar.
They are, because Wade's life went through a transformation as well,
Hmm.
and almost at the same age. He was younger when his life went changed from what he knew
Yeah.
to what it became, and then as he grew older, then this thing happened to
Hmm.
even take him out of that realm of where his life was,
Yeah.
and now he has this purpose that he had no idea what the responsibility would fall on him, and it is a responsibility.
Yeah.
Now it is a responsibility. So Wade's life also goes through a transformation very similar to what Bradford life has gone through. Now it's just the way, now that we're here, now that both of them are here, how are they going to handle it?
Yes. Yeah.
Where are they going to go? Where are they going to go from here?
Hmm. How they both look at their purpose,
Yes. Yeah.
and I think I that definitely comes through, especially in the dialogue. Do you have a lot of fun with the dialogue, Iris?
I really do. That's my favorite part. If I could, I love doing dialogue between characters, whether it's romantic dialogue or just friendship dialogue or enemy to enemy dialogue. I love doing that dialogue because I think you get the truth, what you get, the true essence of what that character is feeling, what that character is thinking.
Hmm.
So I do like writing the dialogue.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say about SIP, the Society of Intellectual Beings, and again, if you guys have not gotten it already, I'm going to highlight it again on the Amazon Live side. Definitely make sure you guys take advantage of go ahead and get it. The reviews are already coming in, but I think some people will. And Earl was on here, and I know I sometimes use movie references because movies and real life just go together for me, Iris. But
Yeah.
I think some people will feel a little Avengers Endgame in this because
That's let me say this, and I meant to say this to you yesterday. We never got into it, but
yeah.
hey, I'm old school tracking. I was Star Trek in and out, and I love the Avengers
Yeah.
and different things of that nature. And that is why where sometimes we need a higher power or a different type of power
Yeah.
to confront the things that we're dealing with in life.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not always those things that can be seen.
Yeah.
It's not always those things that can be seen. Sometimes we need something a little bit stronger to go up against the things that are dealt to us in life. And
Yeah.
in this particular instance, Bradford has his things that were developed. Let's put it that were developed in a laboratory. Wade's powers come from um, beyond.
Mhm.
I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Comes from beyond. And the thing about Wade is Wade's powers grow with different
Mm.
each time he opens one of those journals. His powers are going to grow, and that is where your sci-fi piece comes in. And I've been waiting to really write something outside of the realm of everyday normal stuff.
Right.
But when you read this book, it still happens in a normal way.
Yeah.
It still
Exactly.
happens in a very normal way. It's not like
Hmm.
it's way out there.
Yeah.
These things start to develop in a very normal way. So yeah, it's a little bit of that out there too, Cyrus.
I love it. I love it. I want to shout out to Cheryl. Cheryl, thank you so much for joining us. Cheryl, Best Life Brooks says a happy release day, Iris Bowling. She
Thank
also
you,
says hello to
Cheryl.
both of us. Antoinette says confrontations are explosive for sure. You guys have to get this book. Again, everyone, The Society of Intellectual Beings, the second of two books that Iris gave us this year. The first one is The Aftermath. If you guys have not picked up the Nate Raines book, it also is there. I want to say this because of what the conversation, that's why I love these conversations with Iris. Iris talked about kind of being the creator of her own fate. This book that came out this year has 290 reviews already. The Nate Raines book has
Yeah.
not been out a year. I know authors that are published by publishing houses that struggle to get 100 reviews over the course of a year. And I bring that up for this reason, Iris. You are not only a great storyteller, you also are a great reminder of what is possible. And I hope people remember that when they read your books and see you online, that it's a reminder for all of us that look, if Iris can do it, if I stay in my lane and stay true to myself, I can do it too. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you for saying that. And I do hope that there are people out there who want to write a book, or maybe they want to produce a TV show, or maybe they want to do a song, a CD, or something of that nature. Um, don't ever think that you can. If you can dream it, you can make it happen. You
Right.
can make it happen. And just to put this out there, I did not write my first book till I was 50 years old.
Mm.
I didn't write my first book until I was 50 years old. So don't let something like age or your circumstances in life or anything like that stop you from doing something that's in your heart.
Yeah.
Because as we just said this, as a matter of fact, because when you're doing something that's from the heart, it's not work.
Right.
And when I write my stories are not work. These characters are part of my family. They're part of my family. My readers, they're part of my family. My believe team, that's part of my family. And it's because I didn't let anything stop me from doing something that I believed in. So if you believe in it, go do it.
Such a great point. And we all know because she wrote the Heart series. She knows all about the heart.
Yeah, that is true.
Again, everyone, best-selling author Iris Bolling has been our guest. The Society of Intellectual Beings is out now. You can get it both the Kindle edition as well as the print edition right here on Amazon. Also, you can be able to get all the other books, including the one we talked about earlier, News with Curves. So proud of
Hmm.
myself for not knocking down the new book by getting.
You did it well. It was nice and
Yeah,
smooth.
I'm clumsy that way, so it could have gone either way. But you all can definitely be able to get those and more by Iris Bowling right now on Amazon. But Iris, how else can they stay connected with you?
You can reach me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I'm also on BookBubs and Goodreads. Please, Goodreads. I don't think people know how important reviews are for
Mhm.
independent authors. So Goodreads and Amazon and Barnes and Noble reviews are very, very important for an independent author. So if you read Sibs and you like Sibs, please go out there and leave a review for it. I so appreciate you doing that. But you can reach me on all those social media sites, and I'm on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I tell you that is the thing, and I know your audience has no problem leaving reviews. So we
They do.
definitely encourage
They
them
do.
to do
And I
just that.
thank them so much.
Yeah. Iris, thank you so much for another great conversation. Really appreciate it, and looking forward to speaking with you again soon.
Okay. And Cyrus, thank you for all that you do for those authors and others that's
Yes,
out there, and continue to grow, my brother. Thank you.
thank you. I appreciate that, and we thank you, our audience, for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents. Until next time, you all make it a great one. We'll see you all soon. Take care.